in reality, you need to make mistakes because that's the only way you're actually going to learn for yourself what works and what doesn't work. And there's a thing that we call proof of concept. You know what I mean?
I was just going to bring that up. So I was like, proof of concept? Actually, that concept that you brought up, I was like, it makes so much sense now that you've brought it up before, and you will go into detail explaining what it is for people that don't know what it is. But yesterday, Eman brought this up. She was talking about proof of concept, and for somebody who also works in marketing, who works in this whole thing,
industry,
it was just so like mind-boggling to me that I never heard of that term. I've heard of the concept, just not the term.
The proof of concept.
So I was kind of like, you onto something.
You're onto something. I like it.
But do please explain to people.
Well, so proof of concept, I like to say, 3 to 6 months. And this is something I actually learned from a mentor of mine, a couple years back. But basically, this proof of concept, anything that you try, anything that you learn, anything that you hear, it does not work until you try it and you have a proof of concept. So you tried it for a certain amount of time to see whether or not it actually works. Because mind you, somebody who could be extremely, like I'm going to go back to the clothing brand example because this is perfect. The clothing brand industry is huge. You know what I mean? Like you have underwear, you have you have men's clothing, women's clothing, and you have unisex clothing, you have and then you have different styles of those clothing, then you have different categories of those styles, you know what I mean? It just keeps going and going and going. It's massive. There's no way you can be a master of all of it, especially in such a short amount of time. So, let's just say somebody who is very successful in the men's department, you know what I mean? They're giving you advice on how to establish a successful clothing brand, but you want to do women's. Or, let's get more specific. You want to do
dresses or something.
Like dresses. Okay, let's just say, couture dresses. Okay, which is the complete, it's not even, if we're talking about branding, we're talking about marketing, we're talking about material and just, manufacturers, the entire business itself is completely different, even though it's within the same niche. You see what I mean? So, somebody who's wildly successful in one of those departments can give you advice, and it may or may not be helpful, but you cannot prove it works for you until you actually apply it, and then you have that proof of concept. And depending on the industry, if we're talking about an online business, usually 3 to 6 months, that's more than enough time for you to figure out whether or not your method works. You see what I mean? But if we're talking about something more physical, clothing brands usually take some time, jewelry brands, let's just say restaurant businesses or anything like that. You know what I mean? We're talking about anything, larger businesses and whatnot, they tend to take a little bit more time. So your proof of concept timing might take a little bit longer. However, until it works, you cannot go out and say that it works. You see what I mean?
And even if it does, right, for your specific industry, your niche, et cetera, it will vary depending on,
And I think that's one of the biggest issues, especially with the internet today that we have, is that we have these so-called millionaires who all have some kind of method that's gonna make you super rich, but supposedly, but where's the proof of concept? You see them driving the nice cars, you see them living, the life that you want, but where's the business? Where are the numbers?
The thing that I see a lot, actually, what I used to, is back when, I want to say around COVID times, there was those Shopify stores that were popping off, and there was a lot of ads that I kept seeing about these supposed business owners. And again, I don't know if maybe they are super successful, I just don't know who they are. But I would just see there's a few of these random people that would be like, oh hey, I'm selling this Shopify store for this many dollars, and then look at all this success. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a completely a complete Shopify store. It's already set up and everything. I'm just selling it, and I really don't understand how you're gonna make it work for you exactly though, because
you don't know how to use it.
And it was a very confusing thing because I was kind of it's great that it's set up and stuff, right? But
how do you utilize it?
How do you? There's no context given. It's almost here, you know what I mean? It's this thing.
Well, it's a tactic, right? It's to make it look easier to you. You know what I mean?
That's why he's driving
done for you. That's done for you. You know what I mean?
But that's why he's driving a Porsche, because there's people like me who were about to buy that, and we're like, oh, I wonder if this works. But thankfully I didn't, because I really
Good
don't
job.
like work, honestly. No, but I'm very easy to sell to, actually. I was like, ooh. It was this one course that I was taking. I think it was like on Udemy or something, and there was like
Udemy, yeah.
and there was this instructor who was talking about like leadership in business and stuff like that. And one of the things that he brought up was, let's say if you give a regular Joe,
A regular Joe,
a regular Joe,
Yeah.
a regular like whatever person who
Mhm.
isn't really a business owner, who isn't an entrepreneur, who doesn't have any of that knowledge or that
Mhm.
leadership that it takes to run a business,
Yeah.
and you give them Amazon to manage
They're gonna destroy it.
in a day, probably,
Yeah, exactly.
right? So there's so much more to entrepreneurship than just kind of
Making money.
there's more than just money, right? There's
Of
more
course,
that
absolutely.
you have to make the right decisions. That's why there's a lot of, I was reading this quick little post, but it was actually very informative. It was talking about this like Tumblr, not Tumblr, like the, not the platform Tumblr, but like the drinkable, what's it called, like a cup? It's like a cup. It's this whole idea of there's this company that was selling those types of mugs, whatever, to originally as camping gear. Originally as something you take with you if you're camping or if you're going up mountains, you're hiking, whatever, right? And they keep the drink warm or either hot or cold for however long, whatever, this whole concept. Originally they were marketing it as that. They were marketing it towards men. They were marketing it in boring colors, and they were marketing it in just kind of towards that one use, right? Towards hiking
Camping,
and all that
basically,
stuff, right? And then they weren't making any sales, so they discontinued them. And then sometime later, I believe it was like another company or these women that bought up a bunch of them from this company, and they resold them, but they remarketed them. They rebranded. They brought in fun colors. They changed the branding. They were also now targeting women as well. And there was a lot of they turned it into a community. They turned it into they utilized marketing from influencers, but not in the sense of like it being fake. Not you. Okay, I'll pay you this much if you talk good stuff about my product. It was more so people genuinely liked the product, and they just talked about it. Hey, look at this, it's great.
It's just different strategy. You see
Exactly.
what I mean? But and again, proof of concept.
Absolutely.
If you went on to try something and it failed, that doesn't mean
that the product sucks.
It doesn't mean that the product sucks, and it doesn't mean that your idea sucks. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't even do it to begin with. You know what I mean? Just because it did not work the first time, that doesn't mean it can't work a second or it can't work a third.
Is if you have an idea, do the groundwork first, obviously. Do the research, do the market research, all this research that you need to have a foundation of, find your space in the niche. You have to find your niche, find your space in the industry, I guess. And then from then on, once you do the work, you have to, it's almost like if you've ever done Facebook, you've done Facebook ads,
of course.
A/B testing, right? So you have to run few different types of ads side by side to see which one performs the best.
Of course.
You have to do that
all
when it
proof
comes
of
to
concept.
Exactly.
It shows up a
Absolutely.
million times in different areas, and you got to be prepared for it. And that's why it's very interesting to me, because the thing is, like, there's a reason why a lot of people don't even go into entrepreneurship to begin with, because you got to put in like 100 times the work. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get to just do your time and get paid. That's not how it is. Do your time.
You're in jail. Have you seen that video?
That's how I felt at my old job.
I feel like that's how a lot of people feel at their
Well,
at their
that's
jobs
how
in
it is a
general.
lot in the job force anyway. You're meant to go there at a specific time, leave a specific time. You're only allowed a certain amount for breaks. But, for some people, at least when they're done, when they finish their time, you know what I mean? They can go spend time with their families and whatnot. And that's what makes it so attractive to many people, is the job security. You see what I mean? But
entrepreneurship
also
does not give you that. At the very least, the first couple of years, it doesn't.
Of course, but the biggest difference is that at least you can achieve whatever the hell you want in entrepreneurship. You see what I mean? Like, if you, don't get me wrong, there are some people who are very happy with their jobs. They are very, they love the job that they're in. They love what they do. And by all means, I support those people. And I hope that they are enjoying like absolutely everything there is to enjoy with the job that they're in. And they are very happy and they're at peace and so forth. However, I'm not that person. You see, I did my time in school. I did my time in the job force.
I did my time. I'm not going back.
I literally decide that with my previous job. Like that's to go back to how I guess, you know, with entrepreneur, like how we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We talked a lot, well, not too much, but we did mention briefly about, you know, how we got in, but how are we doing now? You know, I like to think that, you know, my space or how much I've progressed in entrepreneurship in this past 3 years, you know, I think I've gotten to the point where, and don't get me wrong, when I first started entrepreneurship, like I was in school full time, I was working full time, and I was also working a little bit on my side businesses as well. Like, and this was, you know, after that summer of 2020, when I was basically just working online for that summer. But then when school started again, you know, I had to get a job, and you know, I started working at a call center for a little bit, and then I went into sales, and it kind of just went that way. But in the meantime, I was still working on my side hustles. So kind of just like within that time, like I said, I did my time in university, I did my time in the job force, and it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And you know, every job that I've ever had, I always wanted to aim the highest at that job. You know what I mean? I wanted to perform better than I even thought I could.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, it's not just about the money for me. It's more so just the fact that the reason why I did that was because I wanted to feel like I was doing something. I knew that I was going to a job to make somebody else money. I knew that already. I know that they're paying me the lowest they possibly can to save themselves another dollar. But for me to make myself feel better, I still put in 110% to make myself feel like I'm doing something. You know what I mean? To actually accomplish something, even if it's in the interest for somebody else. This amount of work that I'm doing for somebody else, that's giving me so little, I put that same energy just for myself, you go 10 times further.
Yeah. No, Eman is just telling her story, right? But it's also from the perspective of if you have what it takes to, or you think you have what it takes to run a business or to be an entrepreneur, then make the steps necessary to have, you know, either have some type of income originally, right, initially, to get a foot up, right?
Absolutely.
And then enter into that field, and at that point you can quit your job or not, whatever you want to do. But in your case, you definitely have what it takes.
Because at the end of the day, you're probably going to raise my pay, another $1 at the end of the year? That's all I'm worth to you. You know what I mean? For me, it's insulting. Especially the amount of passion that I had within that job. You know what I mean? Like, I've been at jobs where I loved so much, where I actually enjoyed going to work. I was so happy to be around the people that I was around. Like, to me, it felt like a second family. You know what I mean? But
that's also scary.
You should
never feel like your job is your second family.
But at the same time, you know what I mean? It's nice. It's nice at the beginning, at least.
It's great.
You know what I mean?
Amazing.
Like, it's nice to actually want to go to work and feel welcome there, you know? So that's pretty much how it started. And, you know, obviously I was so happy because I was doing what I always wanted to do, you know? But, you know, eventually you get to a point where you're like, okay, well, I'm putting in like 200% for this person, and I'm not getting very far. You know what I mean? So why not just put 200% on myself? Like, why don't I bet on me? You know what I mean? Because I'm more than willing to throw that time for somebody else. Why won't I sacrifice that for me?
That's so.
You know what I mean? Because this person can fire me at any point, and I'm disposable to them.
100%.
But I'm not disposable to myself. You see what I mean? So I think that's. As sad as it is, we are all of us are disposable. You see what I mean? So that's why I think, you know, as somebody who, like, for me personally, I get insulted by the entire system, to be real with you, because I not only, like, especially with especially with, you know, inflation and, you know, increase in, you know, mortgage rates, and, you know, increase in interest rates when you get vehicles, and all this time, like, everything's getting more expensive now.
Definitely.
You see what I mean? And, you know, a lot of people want to like move to certain cities that tend to be, you know, cheaper, I guess, but at the same time it's still getting higher. You know what I mean? Like, we're moving to a stage where it doesn't matter where you are. You know, like, you're kind of at a point where you need to start figuring it out, and whether that's like I said, if you're perfectly happy at your job, by all means, like, I'm happy for you. You know what I mean? But for me, as somebody who cannot, I personally find it to be a disservice to myself. I find it to be a disservice to myself to put in the type of energy that wouldn't get me so far if I did it for somebody else rather than if I did it for me. Imagine if I put, like, I do this now, I put 10 hours a day to myself. You know what I mean? Sometimes I put 18 hours a day to myself.
Sometimes
you know me, I don't sleep, you know?
4 hours, 32
That
hours.
one time it was like 32 hours, it was terrible.
And then you disappeared for 24 because you were making the sleep debt. You were just...
I'm telling you, entrepreneurship can be dangerous sometimes, but honestly, in the sense where this is, you know, one of the other topics that we obviously want to get into is time management and taking care of yourself. Because for me, as somebody who, I get lost in my work. I get lost to the point where I lose track of time. I lose track of myself. You see what it is until it starts to affect my health. You see what I mean? Your health. Get mad at you. Yeah. That's why you get mad at me when I don't sleep for 32 hours.
Just because, again, just, you know.
I know.
I'm like I said, I'm very, very inspired by you because you have this.
I'm doing better now, by the way, guys. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Disclaimer: do not stay awake for 32 honestly, hours straight.
It's horrible on your mental health.
It is.
It's horrible.
It's very detrimental. 100%.
Yeah. But I think, you know, like I said, I do get inspired by you because I look at you, I look at myself, and I look at you, and I do tend to compare it in some sense, and I understand that both of us are very different in terms of our style of work. I know for myself, I cannot not sleep. I literally shut down. My brain actually does not work anymore if I don't sleep. So for me, sleep and ideal exercise.
You should never compare yourself in a negative way towards anybody ever. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't even think comparison is even a right word. Yeah. I think you should always just think, like, because for me personally, like, there are things that you can do that I can't. Do I ever compare myself to you in a negative way? In a negative way? Absolutely not. I look at you for admiration for that. You know what I mean? I ask you the questions I want answers to. I ask you, like, I want answers right now. But no, it's like, I look up to you in that sense. You know what I mean? So it's, I don't look at you in a way where it's like, oh my gosh, she knows this, like, I have to know it too. You know what I mean? It's not like that. It's more so in the sense where it's like, if I see you doing something that is so interesting to me, why would I go to anybody else except you when you're already in it? You know what I mean? But I think, and the fact that we understand each other so well, and the fact that we support each other in this journey, you know what I mean? Like, even if I pull 32 hours without sleeping, you're there to tell me, Eman, go sleep. This can wait, it's okay. Yeah. You see what I mean? Like, you're not that person who's gonna be like, oh, you can reach 44. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
gosh.
And don't get me wrong, you do want friends. You do want friends to go ahead and support you and push you to be your best self, but you don't want friends to...
Well, not at the cost of your health.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. You want, like, your circle, and this is another one of the topics that we will be talking about eventually, but your circle of friends is by far the most important, because unless these people truly care for your well-being and they care about your goals, and, you know, they are your support system in so many different ways in just one, you know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna get very far if your friends don't want the best for you. And I think, you know, thankfully, you know, I do feel that we have that, you know what I mean? Like, we're there for each other's, we're there at each other's lowest, and we're there for each other at our highest. And every single time either one of us came out with something new, you know what I mean? We go celebrate, we think of ways to make it even better. You know what I mean? Whenever one of us is at our lowest, we take care of one another, and then eventually, you know, we're like, okay, that's like, it's work.
I think, and I guess when I say compare, I don't necessarily mean it in the sense of, per se, I mean, yes, what you do as well, but it's more so in terms of your work ethic. I think your work ethic is insane. Like, in the best way, of course, right? Like,
they exploit that.
They rob you.
100%. They use, like, and we're talking, when we say they, we're talking about corporations, we're talking about, you know, majority of people at the top, you know what I mean? They use the fact that public education. They use the fact that you do have a strong work ethic.
Well, nobody wants to train a business owner. They want to train an employee, right? They want you to keep being an employee. Why would they train you to be anything else?
Because then you'll be their competition. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
so
that's
what
they
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's almost like a mind game, so to speak, because by keeping you as an employee, you can't become their competitor. You see what I mean? There's already a lot of competition out there in all industries.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And now that AI is coming out, like there's so much competition in there. So absolutely, you know what I mean? They want to keep you where they can control you. And you know,
speaking on this, there was this one time when I was taking this class, and it had nothing to do with my major. It was just one of the many options I had to take, which was great. But I was actually very surprised by this one professor. He was quite shocking in terms of he was very woke in a good way, in the sense of he was talking about how
he was very aware.
He was very aware about just, I guess, where he works. Not the location, but in terms of the field that he works in. He understood the whole idea that, you know, especially secondary, post-secondary education is very much like they're training people to be good employees. They ring the bell and you line up.
Absolutely.
Right? And
it's kind of insidious when you think about it.
It is, and that was literally one of the lectures that he talked about. He was like, he was just like, you know, do you really want to be the person that, I mean, that's literally what you're taught in school. You're taught compliance. You're taught that memorization is the only way to get ahead in life, which is not true.
And there's only one answer. Oh my God, that one drives me nuts. That there's only one correct answer.
I think
it is.
I think. Listen, I think having good memory and being able to follow rules in some instances is important. I'm not saying that's all.
No, we live in a society. You know what I mean? We gotta work with one another to make this work.
We're not proposing anarchy. We're just saying like it's great, yes, to some extent, to be able to follow rules to an extent,
but not your entire life. You can't subject yourself to somebody else's vision for you. You see what I mean? Does that make sense? It's more so in the sense where like, well, businesses, you know what I mean, if they tend to they tend to promote existing employees to kind of keep them where they are and to also utilize the strengths. So there are many corporations actually when you move up the ladder, the corporate ladder in the sense, they tend to hire in-house. You see what I mean? They tend to promote in-house because you're already familiar with the system. You already know everything that's going on. You already have the skills to do so. You've been there for years. It works perfectly, you know what I mean? They'd rather do that than hire somebody completely outside and train them on everything, you know what I mean? And at the same time, it's very likely that they can also get away with paying you less. So, and these are things that I've also heard with, you know, friends and you know, CEOs that I've met before in the past that know other people who have done this too. Like I'm not exactly, I'm not pulling any studies or anything. Like I'm just going off of my experience and my knowledge of what goes on in these industries, and it doesn't look like it's very uncommon. But one thing is for sure is that the job industry is designed to have you do a certain job for another person so you have less time to become their competition. That is exactly how I see it, 100%. Because if you do become their competition, then what? You see what I mean? You're making funny faces at me. You're like, oh shit.
That was actually so well said.
Yeah, this has been a long episode. Honestly, I'm very happy with how this first episode turned out, and
we do talk a lot as
we do. We do jump from topic to topic, so bear with us.
I think that, I mean, this is obviously we're new at this, so this is definitely not the most, how should I say this? Not the epitome of what we can achieve. I think.
Well, we're not trying to make this stuffy, you know what I mean? Like this is all meant to be like a safe place for us to talk, document our experience, share our knowledge, and even provide any tips and tricks that we've heard from successful people. Maybe even bring very successful entrepreneurs on here with us to give advice and to hopefully inspire a lot more people to chase their goals. Because, like I said, you know, we are
the world is changing.
The world is changing. You need to start going after your goals, and you need to start making a change. Because I'm telling you, whatever secret skill you have, I'm telling you, you can make it work 100%. Whatever skill you have that you've been hiding from the world because you're afraid that one, is not perfect, or two, you're not going to make any money, or three, nobody's going to care, I'm telling you, that's just noise. You'll make it happen, and you can.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah, well, that's a nice way to end it. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. We are so excited to share this with you guys and to start this journey with you all.